guys, Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I'm going to show you how I train my rats to play fetch. And this here is one of my new rats, Potato. She's a 2-year-old rat, and I got her about 2 weeks back. And she's been working on fetch for the last few days. But she has a problem where she really likes to hoard items. So in order to help combat this instinct, I've gone ahead and sort of done a repeat of how we train fetch every single night in order to help her really internalize bringing back the item. So that's going to allow me to show you in kind of a quick succession how I train fetch with my rats. Now this is usually something you'd be working up to over several days. However, because we've already worked up to the final step, and this is just to combat her stashing instinct, that means that we're going to be going through it rather quickly. And I'm probably not going to have to repeat all these steps for another day. This is probably the last day I'm going to do it, just because I think that she's getting pretty good at not stashing the item now. So basically what I start out doing is usually I will take a pen cap or something that's easy to pick up and put a little bit of yogurt on there so that the rat wants to grab it. And then I put the item on something that's slightly higher than my lap, because that means that when the rat grabs it, they're going to naturally bring it to my lap without even trying. So that just makes it very easy for them to learn right from the start that I want them to put the item right on my lap. So we're going to practice that a few times, and you can see she's grabbing it, and after she grabs it, I go ahead and give her some yogurt from my hand. So the next step is just to put the item up there without any stuff on it, and then when she grabs it, I give her some yogurt from my hand. So then we practice that a few times, and once she's pretty good at that, I start to move the item so that it's just out of reach. This means she's going to have to move onto the kind of ledge itself in order to bring back the item. So she actually had to turn around and walk with it for a step, which is the start of a true fetch. So we're going to repeat that a few times, moving the item slowly further and further away. And keep in mind that, again, this would usually take place over several sessions. But anyways, I'm going to put the item a little bit further away this time so that she has to walk a little further. And it's a little hard for her because she is a bit of a chunky gal. She is losing weight, but, you know, it's a process. But usually if your rats are a little bit less chunky, it's a little easier. But even so, you can see that she's picking it up pretty quickly. So after doing that a few times, then I can go ahead and switch to actually fetching on the floor. So I'm going to have her bring it back, and then, whoops. And then what I like to do is I like to take the top here of this little dig box thing, which is actually in my travel cage, or I should call it a carrier actually. I like to put this on the ground because this helps the rats to transition to the ground because it's the same surface and it's still raised. And so they kind of have this sort of behavior that they've learned on this one surface, and it's easier for them to generalize it to a new sort of environment, i.e. the floor, if they have a familiar surface to be on. So you can see I'm just having Potato here fetch off the thing, and of course, whoops, and sometimes they might miss like that, but if they do, you can just have them do it again. And of course after that, the next step is just to remove this lid, and now we're going to have her fetch from the floor itself. So I'm going to put the item there and have her fetch it. And usually you want to start with a pretty short distance. That was a little bit far. Usually I'll start from pretty close up like that. And if they don't grab it, then I just try again. There you go. And some rats will need you to go back and forth between steps. They don't always internalize it right away, which is completely normal. Fetch is kind of a difficult trick for them. So you just want to work at their pace and make sure that they have each step down before you progress. So now we can start to add a little bit of distance and a little bit of motion. So this means we're going to actually start putting it a little bit further, and then once she gets that down, you can start to toss it gently. Come here! Sometimes it really helps to tap the ground too, because that kind of encourages them to bring it to you instead of stashing it, just because they know that your hand is where the yogurt or whatever treat you're using is. So now I'm going to add a little, now I'm going to add a little toss to it, just to start getting her used to that motion. Good job, Miss Potato. We're going to do that again. Let's see if we can get a little bit more distance. Oops. Get it. Right here. Good job. Now I'm just got a little more distance. Bring it all the way back. And you can see she's not totally bringing it all the way back. I'm still going to reward because that's most of the way. And when first training fetch, you're going to notice that they're not always going to bring it all the way back, and you want to be really encouraging about it. So if you see that they're starting to not bring it all the way back each time, you can put it at a shorter distance to make it a little bit easier to make sure that they have a win. because you want to make sure that you're not going too long without rewarding them or they're going to get frustrated. Oh, she's trying to stash it. Oh my gosh. So stashing like that obviously is not ideal. If that happens, you can do the retraining like I was doing, go back a few steps, or sometimes if you have a rat that starts to do that and they're doing really well before that, that can often be a sign that they're kind of winding down for training. They're not quite as enthusiastic anymore. So you can call it a day and then come back to training the next day or just a few hours later. Come in. Good job. But yeah, I think we're pretty much done for today. Potato's doing quite well. She's not quite completely done with fetch, but she is getting pretty close. And after she learns this pen cap completely, the next step will be to add a different item. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Good job. And I will see you guys later. Bye. Oh, they're so cute.